excited to welcome Nigel Lim, the CEO and founder of Payboy, to our Rapyd Talks today. Good afternoon, Nigel, and welcome.
Thank you for having me here, John.
Fantastic. So to kick us off and give our listeners an understanding about Payboy and who you are, Nigel, it'd be great for you to give yourself an introduction, please.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Nigel, and I'm the CEO and founder of Payboy. Yeah, Payboy, we're actually a cloud-based HR and payroll solution targeted at small, medium enterprises.
Fantastic, Nigel. And I mean, it'd be really interesting to understand, how long has Payboy been in operation for? When were you founded? And what's your mission?
Yeah, so we started Payboy in 2016. It's been a good 5 years running, right? And when we first started Payboy, we actually saw a gap in terms of how SMEs were processing payroll, right? And primarily, most SME owners were actually using Excel spreadsheet and legacy software, install-based software. So back then, there were like CD-ROMs, and then they would just install the software and they would use it, right? Sure. And we saw that there was actually a lot of inefficiency in the way that payroll was processed, primarily because how payroll works in the past was employees will submit a leave form or a claim form or their timesheet to the administrator, right? And then the administrator would just key in the data. And there were a lot of like this kind of mundane task that we felt could actually be automated if we could actually offer a mobile application for the employees to key in the data themselves, right? So from providing a self-service tool and then letting data be seamlessly like sent over to the administrator, payroll can then be automated for that. Yeah, so that's how we kind of got started. Yeah, and then the solution has actually evolved quite a lot over the last 5 years.
Fantastic. Okay, and tell me a little bit about the size of the team based in Singapore.
Yeah, so at current stage, we have about 24 full-timers in Singapore. Yeah, so the workforce actually grew by 2 times since 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, because we saw an increase in uptake from by SMEs as everybody transitioned from in-office kind of workforce to an out-of-office work-from-home workforce where they saw a need to change their solution from on-premise to cloud. Yeah, and we were actually very uniquely positioned to allow SMEs to adopt our solution.
Fantastic. So I guess, you've been leading the transition from on-premise to cloud. For some of our listeners who are interested in HR-related products or have experience using HR SaaS solutions, what are some of the unique features or benefits of the Payboy solution that they should be watching out for or looking out for?
Oh, that's a great question. So the way that we built Payboy is we actually built it to be modular, where businesses can actually plug and play any module that they want. Right. So today we have built up to 10 modules, from payroll, leave, claim, shift planning to smaller modules like project costing and inventory. Mm-hmm. And the way we see our customers adopt it, right, they actually choose 3 to 4 out of the 10 modules, mix and match, and then use it in conjunction with whichever like accounting software or HR software that they have already previously implemented. Okay. Yeah. So we're actually very uniquely positioned to allow companies to adopt us really fast, and then later on scale up the solution to meet their needs.
Understood. And when you think about your client base, are there any particular modules that are relevant for particular industries, or are there other reasons why a client might choose some modules over others?
Okay, that's a great question, right? So looking at our database, most of our clients actually come from 3 different industries. So one is actually fast-growing tech startups. Okay. The second one is actually service sector, people like the F&B, retail, and hospitality. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is professional service firms, right? So you're seeing accounting firms, recruitment agencies, and maybe video production firms as well, right? So each of these industry has actually very unique needs, okay, right? So for startups, primarily they want to be able to adopt a solution really fast. Mm-hmm. So when they first approach Payboy, they're actually looking for very basic needs like payroll, leaves, and claims, sure, right? And then as they scale up, as most of our startups actually do, right, they then go on to onboard more advanced modules like appraiser, applicant tracking system, and also like project costing, right? So that's where we see startups adopting our solutions. For service sectors, they actually mainly use our payroll, leaves, shift planning, and attendance, because they have a large number of blue-collar employees, right? And then these blue-collar employees actually need to time in and time out, and their managers need to schedule the workforce in according to demand of the particular outlet on the particular day. Yeah. So, and last but not least, the professional services industry, where they actually have a lot of billables, right? So we see professional service industries actually using our claim expense modules and our project costing modules to actually scale their business.
Interesting. As someone who used to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers, I definitely understand your comments around billable hours and the focus upon that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, from a first-hand experience, Rapyd actually uses the Payboy solution for its payroll needs in Southeast Asia. So, I can certainly speak from first-hand experience as an employee that it's a great system, and that our payroll is always on time, correct, and overall employees are really happy with it. So that's fantastic.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you for the compliment.
Thank you, Nigel. So I guess kind of zooming out a little bit and thinking about some of the trends in your industry and perhaps what's coming next. What are some of the things that you see on the horizon, and what are some of the changes that you'll be making to the Payboy business?
Yeah. So in terms of trends, right, I would say that you see that there's an increase in demand for tech talents, right? And because Payboy, we are a tech startup ourselves, right? So we are constantly hiring tech talents. And we see the demand primarily coming from government and coming from the banks, because we see banks chasing after the fintech players, right? And gradually a lot of the banks are actually adopting more fintech solutions. So in terms of trend, we actually see a very strong talent war between banks, government, and startups, right? And one of the things that we Payboy want to avoid is actually trying to overpay salaries for tech talent, right? Because the banks are aggressively offering higher salary to woo talents over. So one of the things we do is we have a very strong on-job training culture where we employ mid-career changers that are looking to enter the tech industry, and then we give them an opportunity to learn on the job, right? So that's one of the ways that we augment our workforce. Yeah, right. And another way that we're actually augmenting the workforce is looking to hire offshore talent, right? So one of the things that we noticed when the pandemic hit, right, was the rise of remote working tools like Slack and Zoom. Definitely. And it provides a lot of efficiency to our workforce, and it enables all of us to actually be able to communicate with offshore colleagues seamlessly. Yeah, and it gave me a lot of confidence that, hey, actually, if you want to scale globally, it's actually very easy as long as we're able to adopt and incorporate a more remote working culture in our company. Yeah, and that's one of the trends that we are seeing, and we are looking to adopt in terms of hiring. And second thing we are noticing in terms of our own clients and ourselves, right? In terms of offshoring, we are actually looking at we're actually seeing an increase in usage for our system in terms of onboarding global employees. Yeah, and that's something that we did for ourselves. We're actually onboarding global employees as well, right? And we see that people are not just looking at hiring locals right now. They're actually looking at how they can have their workforce be working from overseas and then servicing a local client base, or even servicing a global client base.
Very interesting. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I'd like to ask you a little bit more detail on, please, Nigel, is when you say that internal training is a big priority for your business, is that something that you're building within, or are you looking for external tools to help augment that?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's a little bit of both, right? We have our own internal training modules, and we kind of take a hybrid approach where we have our own internal courses for our employees, and then we supplement it with courses from Udemy, Coursera, and then we engage external trainers as well that are experts in their field to come in and then give our people more exposure to, I would say, techniques that you can only find like in other businesses and not within ourselves.
Understood. Very interesting. I think after today's chat, we should definitely share some notes on that, because Rapyd's also trying to improve its training for its staff locally. So definitely a big opportunity there as well.
Oh, that's good.
Something else you mentioned as well was around the focus for international staff. And I guess being in your industry, you'd see a lot of anonymized payroll data. What type of trends can you tell us regarding talent in Southeast Asia? Do you think wages overall are increasing? Or do you think people are happy to have an opportunity to pivot their careers, as you mentioned before, and therefore it's not so much about money, but training and opportunity? What would you share there?
Okay, so in terms of looking at our own data set, right? I would say that there is definitely a trend moving towards people pivoting their careers towards tech, because generally the tech industry is paying super well, right? We do not see much wage increment in other industries like the service sector and the professional service space. Yeah, and that's something that I think it's for us to take note of. And for me internally, I feel like with the increase in demand, there's going to be more supply, right? And then eventually, supply will catch up with demand. Yeah, and if there are more outflow from other sectors into the tech industry, then in terms of like supply of labor there, it will force a wage increment eventually, right? So it's going to be like kind of like a zero-sum game for everybody if like people are looking to displace their jobs for greener pasture.
Very interesting. I certainly have a lot of friends in the F&B space, and they've shared over the last kind of year or two, it's been very difficult for them to recruit people. Yeah. They may put up a job application and have 20 or 30 applicants respond, but then maybe only 10 will come to the interview despite being invited. And then of the 10 who come to the interview, maybe the week before they're actually hired or accepted into the job, they go quiet and disappear. So it looks like there's lots of talent pressures in a lot of different verticals at the moment.
Yeah. Does your friends actually see like an increase in like demand for higher wages?
They said that's certainly one of the factors. And then other people have kind of talked about convenience. Yeah. So how close is the work site to the person's house as being one reason why there could be some drop off. But definitely I'd say salary overall, particularly for blue collar employment, has certainly been a topic they've raised. Yeah, definitely. Then again, like with an increase in wages, right, then the cost of goods is going to increase, and then it's going to be trickled down to the consumers themselves, right? And then, it's going to be a whole cycle of like never-ending wage increment and then product price increment. Yeah. Very interesting. I mean, thinking a little bit more about your industry specifically, Nigel, what about some of the trends that you're witnessing for HR teams or for finance teams themselves? Are you seeing HR teams wanting to take more control of payroll and shift some of that decision-making away from finance? Or do you think finance remains the key team? Yeah, I think in terms of decision-making, we don't really have the data to support that. But increasingly, we are actually seeing more focus on the HR function by itself. Right, we're seeing companies adopting more HR business partners to actually work hand in hand with cross-functional teams, right, to meet their hiring needs, to address labor shortage, or to actually figure out how do they actually grow the team, right, from a HR perspective. Yeah, so I would say yes, HR is definitely getting more focus as a business function. Right, but in terms of decision making, in terms of payroll, that's something that we don't have here the data to provide. Okay, I appreciate the feedback. What about employee benefits? So thinking about things like insurance or gym memberships, are you seeing that needing to become more integrated into payroll systems? Yeah. So I think when we approach the topic of employee benefit, right, we want to understand like how does the topic of employee benefit come about, right? And the way we have actually noticed in terms of the workforce for our client base and for like looking at external data, right, is that employees are increasingly demanding more out of their job, out of their career, right? People are demanding that the companies that they work for have a sort of corporate social responsibility to society, right? Which is a good thing. It is an amazing thing, right? Right. And we see employees demanding better work-life balance, more employee engagement. So employee benefits actually fit into the entire theme of like giving an employee a better, I would say, holistic experience, right? Yes. It's not just money. Yes. It's not just hours. It's the corporate social responsibility. Yes. Okay. Correct. Yeah. So in terms of I would say that. For my client base in terms of SMEs, right, they're just looking at employee benefits as a form of like a medical compensation in terms of like hospitalization leave or some form of insurance. But actually in terms of employee benefits, there's a whole lot more, right? Like company cohesion, engagement with maybe family day, right? Sure. Shifting some of the focus towards the employee's family. Because you see, with the work from home culture, a lot of employees are being burnt out because they're taking care of their kids and working at the same time. Difficult. Yeah. Yeah. So it's not just benefits that we're talking about, right? It's being able to make sure that you understand what the employees' problems are, what the employees' needs are outside of business, outside of work. Yeah, so that's how we see the conversation moving towards. Interesting. Certainly something that we're looking to do at Rapyd is around how can we tie team bonding and team building with some of those topics. So for example, volunteering. What are good volunteering opportunities in Singapore that we at Rapyd can do together to build our team and camaraderie, but also give back to the community that we're part of. So certainly some of the themes that you're mentioning we're experiencing ourselves as well. I see, that's actually a great conversation to have because
we recently have a partnership with Race, and we're actually offering our product as at a heavy discount to social enterprises and non-profit organizations, right? And one of the themes we are looking at is how do we then match our current client base to non-profit and social enterprise, right? Because one thing we notice is that non-profits and social enterprises, they're not just looking for monetary aid. They're also looking for volunteers, looking for people that can actually spearhead different programs within the NPO and social enterprise space, right? Sure. Yeah, so that's something that within our team we're actually looking at. Wow. Yeah, and maybe we can have a separate conversation after this.
Yeah, I'd love to see Payboy explore that more, because I can imagine you have corporates or employers wanting to access those types of programs and support them, but unsure who to contact, unsure who to reach out to and how to structure it. And then you would definitely have volunteering organizations that certainly need the support, right? But they don't necessarily know who to contact and who to not. So if Payboy could help link some of those things, that's a wonderful opportunity.
Exactly.
So Nigel, we talked about early wage access, instant payments, and cross-border payments. These are very valuable tools to both employers and employees. When can some of your clients expect you to roll out this solution?
Ideally, as soon as possible. No, but okay, honestly, we started developing the tool just this quarter, right? And we're looking to launch Q1 of next year, at the start of Q1 next year. And I think this is possible because we have a very strong partner in Rapyd. And my engineers are actually able to adopt the Rapyd API really easily, right? So I would like our pilot to be launched in Q1 next year for our instant payment. And ideally, in Q3 of next year, we then launch our early wage access.
Fantastic. Looking forward to helping you, and I'm glad your engineering team's finding our solution easy to work with.
Oh, they love working with the Rapyd team, and they love working with the APIs that you guys offer.
Awesome news. I think, really interesting to hear the stats. Social responsibility is something that Payboy's focused on. There's a number of different benefits which you believe will make a difference to employees' lives. Early access to wages, real-time payments, cross-border payments. Understood. At the start of the conversation, we talked about how Payboy is a digital solution. It's a SaaS solution. So rather than not having on-premise solutions, rather than having to buy a one-size-fits-all approach product, you can really help employees choose the right solutions, the right nuances that are best for their business. And you have a few different verticals that you're focused on. F&B, professional services,
and fast-growing startups.
And fast-growing startups. Very cool. Do you see the businesses that you're focused on in the future changing, or will you remain focused on those three verticals?
So actually, on top of these three sectors, right, we do see other sectors adopting our solutions more. That will be the medical sector, right? And then we're increasingly seeing the manufacturing sector adopt our solution as well. Yeah. And most of them are actually a subset of the primary needs of the service sector and the professional services firms together. Yeah.
It's a nice overlap or interlay.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, understood. Cool. It's really interesting, Nigel. I really appreciate the things that you shared with us today. I think to add a bit of a lighter touch at the end of the conversation, as always, as we do in our rapid fireside chats, I'd like to ask you fast questions in 30 seconds.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Where do you get the best bak kut teh in Singapore?
Oh, I actually love the bak kut teh in Holland Village.
Holland Village?
Right? So I think the store is called Kelang bak kut teh. So it's a Malaysian variation of a bak kut teh, of a Singapore bak kut teh, where it's
fantastic. We'll have to try that. Acknowledging the dining restrictions in Singapore, if you had the opportunity to have dinner with one famous person, who would it be?
Yeah. So I would say I would like to have dinner with the pioneer of SaaS, Mark Benioff, who is the founder of Salesforce, right? And really pick his brain on how he actually grew a SaaS company to be a multi-billion-dollar company.
I think that's a good question to ask. When you find out the answer, please share it.
I will.
Who's your favorite payments company?
Oh, Rapyd for sure.
Good answer. For fun, after a hard day's work, what do you do to let your hair down?
Oh, I would say I love a good Netflix and chill session with my girlfriend. Yeah.
She'll be happy to hear that.
Yeah, and of course, I would say I also like to engage in physical activities. Back then, before COVID, right, I would play basketball. Yeah, but now because it's kind of like you can only do like individual sports, right? So I just do a lot of running.
Okay, fantastic. I also need to get back into exercise, so I'm looking forward to the COVID restrictions lifting. I guess final question, Nigel, the 3 publications that you read each and every week, what are they and what would you recommend?
Okay. I read a lot of tech in Asia, right? Because it's primarily where my business is in. I would say the second one is The Economist, right? To actually understand on the global issues, right? And I would say the last one is Wall Street Journal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I like to understand like how public listed companies are actually operating.
Sure.
Yeah, and then in terms of stock movements, because one day I see ourselves over there.
Fantastic. Good to have the aspiration.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for your time today, Nigel. It was really great to meet with you. I appreciate you sharing the answers transparently, and hopefully it's added some value for our listeners.
Yeah, thank you for having me, John.
Cheers, Nigel.